Welcome to.
I don't even try your name. Okay.
Don't even try it. Okay, no, I was just kidding. I'm not. I covet your name, but I won't try to take your name, even if it's not copyrighted. This is Art Jones and Cherie Valentine, and we're here today on Blab to talk about empathy, using empathy and the power of empathy to achieve success in your life and your business. And I'm your host. My name is Art Jones, and I am Tao Marketing. That's TAO, which can be the art of marketing. But more importantly, it's Tao Marketing, because Tao is the Chinese philosophy that's really all about seeking harmony and alignment in our lives. And in my business practice as a principal consultant at Tao Marketing, I help founders and businesses gain alignment in the stories that they tell to the audiences that they serve, so they can call those audiences to action, nurture those conversations, and grow community and grow their businesses in the process. So that's Art Jones at Tao Marketing, your host, and our co-host today is Cherie Valentine. Cherie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Cherie Valentine, and I'm here on Blab just about every day, it seems lately, with some wonderful co-hosts, and Art being one of them. And I'm a shamanic healer, energy and intuitive coach and mentor. And I work with people to help you find balance and harmony and alignment in your business and in your life, so that you can experience more joy and success. And I do that with a very integrative approach, working with both the mind, the conscious mind, and the unconscious mind, with the energy and with spirituality and intuition. So, yeah.
Those are all good things. And, empathy is central to my business practice. And I think it should be central to all of us because it's an important ingredient. I mean, if we look at it in a primordial sense, and, we're in a tribe a few thousand years ago. And if we didn't have empathy, we wouldn't be able to look at the tribe and say, okay, you're very good at chopping wood, so you chop wood, and I'm good at cooking the bear, so I'll cook the bear, and you're good for hunting, so you hunt. That's understanding what the other person does, and we only achieve that through empathy. Today on Blab, as we're talking about our personas and ourselves and being able to interact better with other people, empathy is important to that. There's a great example that I read recently in the Harvard Business Review, and it was about Harvard Business School and how empathy is becoming central as a learning experience in the business school. Because when you go there on your first day, there's 60 other people in your class, and everybody is brilliant, and you meet some of your best friends for life there. But you go to a class and you're sitting in your chair, and the professor asks a question, and you say, oh my gosh, I've got the answer. You raise your hand, and then one of the new friends you've made that you so respect for their intellect and their kindness starts talking, and they're talking the polar opposite of what you were thinking your answer would be. And it makes you realize that sometimes your answer is not the best way. And sometimes someone else has a better idea. And when we acknowledge that and we honor that, that's what empathy really is all about. And there's a definition for empathy, and this is straight out of the Webster's repository. And it says, empathy is the ability to understand and to share the feelings of another. That's down and dirty. That's about as simplistic a definition of empathy that you can get. And Cherie, why don't you tell us if you want to build on that and add anything to that definition?
Yes. So I do believe that it's extremely important for us to have empathy, to use it and to understand it. But when it comes to, I want to talk about the piece of sharing the feelings of somebody else, because, and we're going to distinguish between two things, because there is empathy in the sense of intuitives who are empathic, okay, which is a very different experience than being able to just have empathy and use it in a very healthy, healing way in your life and in your business. So I wanted to talk about intuitives who are empathic, because there's a lot of talk about that, and a lot of my clients experience this. So you really have to learn to distinguish it. That when you're empathic, you sense the feelings of others and the emotions, but you also you feel them yourself. And it's not necessary to actually feel those emotions on behalf of somebody else. And so as an empath, people really need to learn to distinguish that and learn how to work with that understanding and that energy so that they're not in the emotional state of somebody else because they have empathy for them. So if you're not an empath, it's a little bit easier to separate that, but I still think it's it gets misunderstood that in order to have empathy for somebody else, that you have to sort of be in the experience with them. And that's not, my understanding of it is not, you don't have to be in the experience in them. You just need to, you do have an understanding. You have some compassion. You have a general understanding. You can understand that yes, they have feelings and that they're affecting them, and they bring their perspective to it. But the more that you can sort of also separate yourself and see that and you share the experience from the perspective like, okay, I get that they're having these emotions and these feelings, so how can I work with that and use that for their highest good and as for myself as well? So by being able to separate yourself more, you're going to bring so much more value to the relationship by having empathy, but not absorbing and wearing it.
Yeah, wearing it can be debilitating, I imagine, if the person you're engaged with is not in a happy state, then you could be drawn into that. But if the work that you do is helping people that are not necessarily in the brightest place, then it's just a routine, and it's good to have skills and perspective that allow you to do the work without being drawn into that space with the person that you're working with.
I think it would be good to give some examples, like using it in a business sense in different capacities, like where empathy would be really helpful.
Well, I was gonna. So Cherie, that in my work, I spend a lot of time using storytelling and the sense of narrative to help people find their sense of empathy, find their sense of understanding with the audience that they serve. And when they can tell the narrative of the person that their ideal prospect, their customer, they're getting closer to being entirely empathetic with them, understanding where the bright spots are, where the pain is, where the opportunities to improve that person's life or business are, and using narrative storytelling. In other words, what I would do is if Cherie was my ideal prospect and she weren't in the room, I would say, my ideal prospect's a woman, and her life, she's successful, she's doing this, she's this age, she makes this much money, but here are some of the pain points and here are some of the challenges that she deals with in her business every day. And if I know that, then I know that what I offer resolves that pain. And then everybody like Cherie is my ideal prospect. That's seeking to have empathy in a pragmatic way. And I know Cherie can help us tune into empathy in a more material way, a more metaphysical way, perhaps. Cherie, how do you explain that?
Well, I'll give some examples. I do a lot of work with mother and daughters. Just seems to come through. I don't know. Moms, I think, after working with me, get a sense that they trust me and they start to bring their daughters to me. But how this is really important is that I'm just going to take it even away from my clients. So I have a granddaughter who's 15 years old, and she's a step granddaughter, and she's from a previous marriage, but we've remained this amazing, loving relationship, and I'm really grateful for that. And she reached out to me a few weeks back because she has, she's a teenager, and you know what happens when you're a teenager between parents sometimes. So anyway, we were having conversation, and what I was able to do is to help her have a sense of empathy from her parents' perspective of how they're feeling around the fact that their 15-year-old is becoming independent, has a mind of her own, that they still feel that they need to protect her and care for her. And so I was trying to help her have empathy for her parents to help ease the strain between their relationships. And I do that often with mothers and with daughters. So, a lot of times if I can help a mother understand to tune in and have more empathy for their children, then they're going to be able to maybe approach them a little differently from a better sense of understanding and compassion and love, but still firmness and separation. I know for myself as a mother that when I learned what I used to do when my teenage daughter was upset was I would get upset with her. So I would be so empathetic that I would be, feeling her pain. And that wasn't very helpful for me as a mother to hold the space that was required, for her highest good, for me to have more objectivity, for me to be able to maybe guide her or just listen, so empathy, I think, it helps us to connect really, really well, but we also have to remember that we need to keep it separate as well. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But it's the connection, I think, to what's really going on with somebody and being able to see it maybe from their perspective or from where they're coming from is really important. And I think in a business sense, like when we reach out, if I'm working with a potential client or somebody who could be a client, having empathy for the situation that they're in is going to allow me to maybe connect with them and have a deeper conversation about the issues that are important to them, or maybe the feelings that they're having or the confusion that they're having. But I have to also remember that I have to allow them to have their experience. Like, I don't want to be in that experience with them. I just want to have a connection to it to better understand and serve them.
Well, here's what I'm thinking is that because I use narrative storytelling to help the people that I work with connect with their ideal prospect, whether it's a mother, a daughter, or whether it's a business of 500 employees, being able to tell their narrative is evidence that you understand and are being empathetic to their situation. As you're talking, Cherie, narrative storytelling and using the hero's journey and me being the mentor and helping them become the hero is very, very pragmatic, but very useful in my experience. But I think that you bring something to the conversation that we all should have an awareness of. Because very often in my work, I know when I ask somebody to tell the narrative of the person they're in service to, they stutter and they stammer because they don't really know. And often they need a jump start, and that's where I help them along that path. But if I could help them say, I understand that in your business plan, in your business model, that's who you think your product serves best, and that's who you want to work with. But you can't yet tell me exactly where their pain is and tell me in an empathetic way what's going on in their world. Maybe if we just step back for a minute and connect with your intuition. You chose them for a reason. And that's where I hand the ball to you, Cherie, because I think I know yesterday you did a blab on intuition. You do workshops on how to nurture your intuition. And intuition, in my way of thinking, is a first cousin to empathy. And so can you talk to that a little bit? And as an exercise, what exercises can you share with us that help us tune into our intuition so we can be more empathetic to understand the people that we are in service to in a material way?
Wow. Where do we start? Lots of things that we can do. First of all, I would always say that the more grounded we are in our own selves, so the more that we're grounded in our truth, in our feelings, and I love to ground with earth energy and divine energy, because then we have the two flowing through us, and then that helps to source us. But I think it's important to be grounded, because if we're not grounded, we're more reactive to other people. We're less tuned into other people. And it sounds counterintuitive because we're being grounded so that we're in tune with ourselves. But if we're more in tune with ourselves and we're more, calm and less reactive and all those things, then we're going to be able to have more of a capacity to tune into other people and to tune in from a state that's more objective. As far as tuning into intuition is available to all of us, and it serves us, it guides us and leads us if we allow it to. And it comes from, again, a sense of space in time. So if you're not allowing yourself downtime, quiet time, creative activities, outlets that really nurture you, you're less receptive to the intuitive messages that can come through. And they come through in so many different ways. So, I mean, that's like a whole nother blab. We talked about that last night. Anyway, there was actually a blog post on my website, shreevalentine.com, that is actually talks about, the 4 C's of intuition. And we had a wonderful discussion about that, and the replays available there. But intuition is just really, it's information that comes to us, and it comes to us through the energy around us. It comes to us through our unconscious. It actually comes to us through our experience, but it comes to us through our connection to spirit. And again, it really is, it's inner wisdom and guidance. It's meant to serve who we are. So the more that you can tune into that on your own, I think the more of a capacity that you have to be in an empathic state that is going to not only serve you, but serve those around you.
That's powerful. And, that's why we work so well together, because, I mean, we're kind of we're those two things that go together. I'm at a loss for, it's like the ginger and honey in my tea, right? It just works so well together. What I use an awful lot of design thinking. Design thinking is generally thought of as what Apple uses to build an iPad or an iMac, to make it elegant and beautiful and useful to us, something we can't live without. Design thinking is finding its way into the enterprise and finding its way into my personal professional practice, because another way of referring to it is human-centered design. And human-centered design begins with empathy. It begins with the notion that if I'm making a chair, and I'm a chair maker, an artisan chair maker, that I make chairs for athletic women. Well, that's a certain body type and style and temperament that chair is made for. If I make chairs for sumo wrestlers and I don't have empathy, I'm going to make a chair that's going to not be comfortable, or it's just going to break into smithereens. Those are 2 radical examples, but in my practice, this human-centered design, beginning with empathy, means that you're looking at what is, to establish what if I do these things, define what wows, and then implement what works. But all of those things, if I'm building a medical device to serve some tribal community in the center of India, and I just build it here in Tucson, Arizona, and then take it to India without really meeting and knowing a day in the life of those people, not so good. So I wanted to set the context for the process of human-centered design that's built around empathy. But you can take that human-centered design and turn it around and make it look at yourself as if you're looking in the mirror. And I think that's what Cherie was saying, is that when we look in the mirror of human-centered design and say, okay, so I can use this to help my clients, but when I use it to look at myself and say, what is? That's kind of, who am I, right? And then why do I do the things that I do, right, in my business? Or why do I want to do these things? And then with this intellect or this gift or this superpower that I have, what am I going to do? And that's the what if, that long, tall stack of what if. And then you narrow that down to what's going to work for you and work for the people you're in service to. And then you go do it. That's the implementation. But when you turn that human-centered design or the design thinking on yourself, if you're not grounded, as Cherie was saying, right? If you have not made space to be in touch with who you really are, that's mindfulness that allows us to do that. There's a dear friend of Cherie that I've gotten to meet through Blab that talks about nature as a metaphor for life, but also a place where we can find that mindfulness. If you don't want to sit on a mat and do yoga and meditate, walk in the woods. Because when we quiet all the noise of what's going on in Paris and what's going on in our work life and what's going on with our family down to a low simmer, then the answers to the questions we asked ourselves in design thinking can rise up, and we can acknowledge them. We can call it intuition. I can refer to it as mindfulness. allows the noise to quiet down, and then I see things much more clearly. And when I look into the mirror of design thinking and say, what do I have to offer my market? And I can then confidently say, I have these wonderful gifts that I can give to the people on those journeys. Then I connect with those people on those journeys. I seek to understand them in a mindful and material way. Then the gift that I have helps them accomplish more. It's a wonderful thing. But that process, I think, takes things like commitment to use a process to get in touch with yourself before you try to get in touch with your audience. It takes patience because it doesn't happen overnight. And then it's the hard work of sorting it all out, inside and outside over there with the people that you're in service to. So Cherie and I do that kind of work. Cherie is at a higher order than I am. I think in that higher order, Cherie, I mean that your work is maybe more heartfelt than mine. I'm still an enterprise kind of guy, and I still approach it in a very pragmatic way. But I think it's important when you really want to do this work really, really well. If you don't have a practice of yoga, or if you're not cycling 6 miles a day and that's where you find your nirvana and your quiet place, if you don't have that, then you need someone like Cherie to be a guide to help you find that place where you can quiet the noise, to find empathy first with yourself, so you can genuinely become in service to the audience that you choose to serve. So that's my little soliloquy on empathy, to build on what you were saying. And I really wanted to impress upon the listeners now and people listening on replay, this notion of mindfulness and empathy are really hand in hand. It's almost like you can't get empathy without first being mindful. And the more mindful you become, the more intensely connected to being empathetic with the audiences you serve, the colleagues you work with, the family that you nurture, becomes an integral part of the offering.
I actually love how you, it's interesting. I always have these aha moments. I guess that's intuition, spirit coming through. I'm not sure. But so you help understand marketing in a way that I never really did before. So, I've always sort of thought of marketing as like a wall. Like, I can't market. Like, it's like I put it in this like bubble of something I can't do. Instead of really understanding that it's just a natural outputting of who I am and what I do.
Yeah.
It's building relationships. It's making connections. It's having empathy for the people that I want to serve, and that I can, help and make a difference, help them to expand and grow and tune in to their intuition, to their spiritual evolution, so to speak, to have the sense of clarity of alignment in their life. And the way you just said something a little bit ago that was just like, oh, that's all that is. That's all marketing. I mean, that's not all it is, because there's a whole lot of a skill.
There's a lot of stuff in there, but that really is. But
if we all, I think, at least connected a little bit more to that part of ourselves, or that part of marketing, it wouldn't feel so scary or overwhelming, maybe, to so many people.
And I use this. This is, I don't know if you can see that. This is a little card that I made, and it says brand strategy. And brand strategy is that whole place where empathy lives, because under it says truth. That's your truth, and it's the truth of the person you're in service to. You have to understand them both. And you can use story, which is the way that you prove to yourself that the story you tell yourself about why you do what you do, who you're going to do it for, and how they're changed once they get it is important. And then when you tell the story of them, you tell the story of the challenges they have on their journey, and how your product, service, or solution helps them battle the alligators in the swamp of their journey and come out changed on the other side, where their world has changed and they're changed, accomplishing more in their business, accomplishing more in their life. And I believe that those two things have to happen before you do these two things. So this is, for me, it's just above the fold, like in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Upside down the fold, above the fold, brand and story live. And you have to do these things first before you can do these things. And there are plenty of people that will say, build me a website. And I say, well, tell me your brand story so I can build a better website. And if they can't tell me, I have to refer them to somebody who's just going to build them a website. Because I believe that if I understand your brand story, then the website I build will genuinely be in service to the audience that you want to reach to give your gift, your service, your solution, your product. And so I have become very centered on taking all that I know about marketing and sales and storytelling and brand and making it my own and doing it my way because it works for me and I believe it will work for other people. It's not right for everyone, but that's okay because there's 7 billion people on a planet and I can grow a thriving business because there's plenty of people that do believe what I believe, that want to take a deeper dive and be more in connection to their audience. And if there was a theme that was overarching this blab, it's the notion that the clients I work with genuinely want to make meaning in the world. And that's why I do what I do, because when I see that happening, it makes me happy, because that's my mission. And when we make meaning, we will make money. The people that come and say, well, can you just do social media? I need more likes on my Facebook page. Well, no, there's somebody else that will help you do that. That's not what I do. I can help you use Facebook, but only after we do the things that live above the fold, which if...
So basically, your ideal client is not looking for a quick fix just to get up there and have a presence.
Yeah, that's true.
And I have to, I'm laughing because when I started out like on this journey 9 years ago, I was that person. Like, I thought when I hired somebody, you know, they were just going to put together this beautiful presence of who I am and what I offer and all of these things. And I used to get so frustrated when they wanted me to sit down and take all this time to answer all these questions.
Questions? Can't you just build a dang website?
I told you what I want.
I don't have time for all this stuff.
I was so coming from my head back then, like seriously, like just what I thought I should say or do or want without actually connecting.
That's too funny, yeah.
To the empathy of who I wanted to work with and help. So I just laugh at the, you know, the what is the word?
Well, but there are, I don't know what the word is, but I think that there's
the contradiction of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the evolution too, how, you know, to that, I guess I really I resonate so well with so many of my clients because I was that person who lived in her head and who tried to ignore intuition and who wanted to be logical and make, you know, and do what I was told and give my power away and think that everyone else knew better for me than what I knew for myself. And, you know, and just wanted to ignore all the stuff that was my truth for the longest time until it wouldn't let me do that anymore. And it's really funny because, that's who I work with so many clients and who are the same way, you know, they're resistant sometimes to that. And it's about an integration, by the way. It's not like forgetting to be logical. It's not about forgetting that we're intelligent. You know, it's not, you know, that there are systems and things that work that really help. It's also integrating another aspect of who we are to help us be more whole, more aligned, and more harmonious. And it's bringing those two together and learning to work with them on both pieces of it.
I think that's beautifully said because as you were saying that, I was thinking that, you know, generally speaking, we all end up working with someone that is very similar to who we are. And they at least believe what we believe. And here's a tool that I can share with everybody listening. And it's an ideal prospect matrix, if you will, because before we step back and step into our mindful state and work with our intuition and think of being empathetic, we have to pragmatically begin the process by starting with some kind of formula that tells us at least where we're heading. make a map. And so this is a map making exercise. So take a blank sheet of paper and get a pen out.
Do this now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And on the left, there's one column. It's actually, let's call it two columns, and it's called demographic. And it's who they are, your ideal product, who they are. If it's B2B, is over one column. That's business to business, your business to a business. And the next column is B2C, your business to a customer, an individual. And we're now going to talk about the demographic of who they are. And the first row, it might say annual revenue for the B2B. It might be income for the B2C. And then the next row might be number of employees for the B2B, the business. And it might be age of your ideal prospect when it comes to the customer you're serving. And this is all the demographic information. Then you go down to the business, what industry are they in? The individual, what kind of work do they do? What's their role?
So can I interrupt you for 1 second? Because right now this sounds very cerebral, very logical, and very statistical. So is there any kind of intuitive or empathy coming in on this portion of the exercise?
In this exercise, and it's, I'll give you the headings as opposed to go through the granularity. And for me, this is because I'm that guy. I have this duality. I've got the analytical and I've got the metaphysical, that I appreciate both and use them both. But before I try intuit what my ideal prospect is thinking and feeling, I build this matrix to determine that I know that I want to work with businesses that have at least a minimum of 50 employees and make a minimum of $5 million. If it's an individual, I want them to have a income of $80,000. I want it to be a woman that's already successful, and she's in a service business. And so if I define that at least gives me structure to then sit back and say, okay, now I've defined that they can afford me, right? And I've defined that they are the kinds of businesses and the kind of people that I generally want to work with. Now, let me intuit, let me think empathetically, let me get on Blab and gather those people around and ask them some questions to validate that they are struggling with the problems that I think they're struggling with, and that the gift of my product, service, or solution fixes those problems. Then we have a match. But this pragmatic exercise that goes through demographic and psychographic and behavioral and environmental, it paints the picture. The intuition and the empathy fill in the colors by the numbers.
So the good example, like I think Dave Moore, and I can't remember if it was a Blab that we did but he used an example of having a jar of sand that looked like it was full. And then when you actually added water, it wasn't full at all because the water came in and filled up the space. So what you're saying is we need to create a foundation and a structure for which then more intuitive energy can come in and fill the gap and help.
That's very well said. That's perfect. Can I write that down? I'll attribute that to you.
Please do. I don't know
that makes perfect sense. That's the perfect way of saying
Every
it.
Every time I pick up my stones, some wisdom seems to come out of me that I don't know where it comes from.
That's perfect. And so we've been at this for a while now, and we've got some guests, and we've opened up the seats, and here's some other voices on this subject of empathy and what people think. So that the seat is open. Somebody come on down and join the conversation. 2 seats here. There's anybody that wants to tell us what you think about the importance of empathy, how you use it.
Oh, Shannon's gone. I was going to ask Shannon to come in, but she's gone. Nicole, you want to jump in for a minute? Are you able to, or would you just passing by? And if not, I think we'll wrap it up if we don't have anyone. Oh, here she comes.
Here she comes.
Yay, I love it. I love Nicole. I love how she says her name.
Hello.
Oh, look at you. I love her hair.
I'm going on a Blab in like 5-10 minutes. So
all right, well, we're going to wrap this up. We can come support you in your Blab.
Well, I just popped in to say hi, and you know how I appreciate both of you. And it's always there's always a conversation. I love and being an empath. I think it's important, and I love I love the structure. I love the question that Cherie asked, but I love art's structure because being an empath, sometimes people kind of lose sight of the fact that we do come with a structure and we do come with, I was on a blab last night with Tim Gillette and I love the word of, we do come with a design that's ours. So I think that we can't lose sight of the fact that we do come with a structure. We do come with a design of who we are. And that's where art's, very Cartesian. How did you say it, Cherie? In English, what was that word? The structure. My brain. It's Cartesian. It's when you think in like very structured and very
cerebral, logical.
Cerebral, yeah. and I think we need that, but we also need to, because there's so many sides to who we are, and it's bringing them in a way that fluidity has to come together, and I think that's where the marriage of these blabs is so amazing, because you can bring that cerebral and that empathic and just kind of marry them together.
Yeah. And that's absolutely the echo all of a sudden.
Idea.
That's exactly why when I blab with Cherie, I am always amazed at the synchronicity of the divergent ideas, but they come together just perfectly, and it's. And for me anyway, and it's always a thing of beauty to hear when it happens.
Well, it's the whole yin and the yang, and the feminine and the masculine, and the dance and the flow, and the integration. Like I said earlier, it isn't either or. We're not meant to just be completely intuitive and just shut down the fact that we are intelligent beings with minds that work and have logic and have the ability to analyze and synthesize. But we also, it's bringing them together. It's integrating them, working. And then this, and Art and I, it's such a good example of what that looks like.
Yeah.
But on that, I really have to pop up because I have to be in the other blabbing minutes.
What are you blabbing on?
It's my entrepreneur's journey with Andy Bryan.
That's right. Oh, yay. I'll be on it.
I'm coming to join you when we're done here.
We're on at 12. And Eric, did you see my message? I sent you a private message.
Yes.
Me? Oh, him. Okay.
Yes, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Let's move it and we'll make it happen.
Okay, perfect. So, all right, I got to pop out. I'll see you guys in a bit. And great hearing from you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye. All right.
Always good seeing Nicole.
Oh, I love her. So that's probably a good time to wrap up. I mean, I think we covered pretty well. And it's always, I'm glad she popped in because she just brings such a beautiful energy to it all, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. She does. Why don't you wrap up first? Tell us who you are, and we're here every Thursday, except for next Thursday, and we're not here. It's a holiday here in North America or in America.
Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve, we won't be here.
Yes.
So just this month, it'll be twice in December, and then January we'll be back on our weekly.
And we're moving from 11 a.m. Eastern time to noon Eastern time. When?
Yep. When do you want to start that? Do you want to just start that next time?
Yeah, next time, 2 weeks from now.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we'll be 11 Eastern. We'll be noon Eastern time and 10 Mountain time where I am.
And 9 Pacific and 5 p.m. in Europe, I think, or at least in London anyway.
You're glad you need a world map of clocks on the wall, I guess.
I know. Okay. Well, thank you. Oh, thank you, Jafiri. Thank you very much for that, and hope you'll join us again. We'll be back, and so basically we'll be back in 2 weeks then, right? 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. And we tend to, so we're both here talking, basically the umbrella of what we're talking about is the Tao business, the art of business, and energy and alignment and harmony, and bringing the two different perspectives that we both bring. And we love talking about it. And every week it's different topics. Sometimes there's a lot of engagement, and it's something we enjoy doing. I help you just to have harmony and alignment in who you are, in your goals and in your visions, in the businesses that you're creating, from a more spiritual and energetic and intuitive place, to be integrated with the intellectual and the mind. And art actually helps us to take that vision and put it out in the world in a way that speaks to who we want to speak to.
Well said. And with that, I don't need to embellish that at all. That was perfectly said. So for Tao Marketing and Cherie Valentine, we're signing off this blab, and we'll see you in 2 weeks talking more about the Tao of business and the Tao of alignment and harmony in your life. So your business can grow and you can accomplish more. So until then, bye.
Many blessings. Take care.